Good afternoon and welcome back to Chief Data Officer Europe 2017. My name's Adam Plom from Corinium Intelligence and I'm here with Peter Jackson, who is the Head of Data at the Pension Regulator. Peter, thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon.
Just want to jump straight in. I know this is something that's kind of dear to your heart, if you like. Predictive analytics, how is it delivering value in your organisation? You know, what is one specific way that it's driving decision making or improving operations?
Predictive analytics has enabled us to understand our regulated community in far more detail and understand their behaviours. So we can target our education, our enabling, our messaging, our communications more effectively to increase compliance levels and to help our regulated community comply.
And can you give an example of perhaps something that is surprising or an unusual insight that you've found in your data that kind of aids that journey?
I think for a long time we were of the opinion that all of our regulated community in terms of pension schemes were the same and they'd all behave the same. But by looking into the data we could realise there were certain characteristics which we could identify, and looking at their past behaviours from 9 years worth of data that would lead us to understand why they behave differently. And there's some real tags, some real signs, some real profiles that enable us to help them through compliance.
Okay. And what is the implementation of next best action? How is that looking with the most innovative real-time decision-making technology for you guys?
Near real-time is a loose term, but next best action is very important in that we want our pension schemes who we regulate to comply, so we want to help them get through that. So if we understand why they have different behaviours and what these are triggered by, we can then help them through into compliance, and then we can gauge our next best action, and it may be communications. Do we communicate to them by email? Do we communicate to them by white mail? Do we pick up the phone and talk to them? We now understand what our next best action is to help them through the process.
And how is big data providing value to next best action? And I guess how is that different to perhaps 3 years ago?
I think 3 years ago, and I don't think we were alone in this, we were very passive. We just expected things to happen. We expected our regulated community just to go through the hoops of compliance. But now big data has enabled us to be far more proactive. We can seek out the problems before they occur. In a commercial world, people may be looking to make that next sale to the person. We are helping people to comply.
Just when we speak to people in the market, perhaps if it's someone in banking or insurance and they're talking about their own regulations they're now trying to see regulation as kind of an enabler, not a burden, but something that is going to help them drive value going forwards. How do you communicate that message? How do you make people not see it as a burden, perhaps?
By making that interaction as easy as possible. And obviously digital technologies have enabled that. Doing away with big paper forms, personal tax has moved that way. So if there's information we want, we've got to make it easy to gather. We've got to make sure that we cut out a lot of the mistakes that they may make by validating data and triangulating data, and by opening up a dialogue rather than just sitting back and waiting for it to come in and then spending a period of time saying, well, that looks wrong.
Sort of off track a little bit, but it's a question we always like to ask our visitors here, I suppose. What would you say are the top 3 qualities of a data leader? What do you need to succeed in any given role?
I think particularly for data, it's a passion about the data. You've got to be passionate about the data because you have to deliver a vision. Because the role of CDO is relatively new in many organisations. You have to be able to communicate the vision. So passion for data. I think you've got to be competent in data. You need to be credible to the other C-suite or the people you're working with. And I think that you need to be able to articulate very, very clearly the value of data science and data analytics.
And one final question. I was talking to somebody earlier on about the next generation of data leaders. Those coming through the ranks who are looking at perhaps the CDO role or the CAO role and kind of see that as an aspirational thing to aim at. What one piece of advice would you give them before they start on their journey, perhaps?
I think if you're coming from the data route, so if you're a data scientist or a data engineer and you have that aspiration, understand business. Understand what drives a business so you can combine the 2 skills. If you're coming from the business route, you've got to get credible in data.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Peter. Thanks for joining us. Thank you.